Yes, indeed. Welcome. Lesson number 2 for trimester number 2 in 2025. I am your host, E-Cussionist, aka Matt Vorzimer, reporting live from the studio here in Durham, North Carolina, bringing you all this information on the NGO Radio Terra YouTube platform. Every week I'm here Wednesday at 4 p.m., bringing you all my life experience, all my professional music knowledge in one place for a 30-minute little chunk. I'll be here for 10 more of these after today, so stay with me for this, and I hope that you enjoy today. I'm going to warm up a little bit, and then we'll get into it. Yes, so like I said, today we're going to be talking about single stroke, the double stroke, the paradiddle, and we're going to talk about swing versus straight feels. We're going to talk about, it's all Black American music. as far as I'm concerned, when we're talking about the American music idiom and the inventions of it, it all traces back to the founding Black Americans that created everything from gospel, hymns, and spiritual music up through the early ragtime, swing era, into big bands, into bebop, into post bebop, hard bop, progressive jazz, postmodernism, the avant-garde, the emergence of rock and roll, country music adjacently, the emergence of hip hop through sampling of soul records and R&B records. You see where I'm going with this, and as we go through this tree, this family tree that roots itself in Africa and comes all the way through up into New Orleans and up into, in this context, the United States, we're talking about funk, rock, blues, jazz, everything under the sun, Black American. So right now I would like to demonstrate a couple of things. What I showed you was the Belle Biv DeVoe beat. That's a New Jack Swing style. Let's go over here to some rock music. I'd like to demonstrate something from, like a classic Aretha Franklin song, "Rock Steady." This is certainly like soul music and R&B, but it can be considered rock. Rock. I'm just going to say what comes to my mind. The next rock thing that comes to my mind is actually a Foo Fighters song. It's called, I think it's called My Hero or Hero. Right, so you get the picture. It's the toms, it's the big snare. So I just want to let you guys know that check out the Foo Fighters. They're some of my favorite like alternative rock music, post Nirvana, post Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. Really great big guitar rock sound, right? Let's go back in time a little bit to a predecessor of rock and roll, and we're going to look at blues shuffles, right? So I'm going to go ahead and play kind of a good swing blues shuffle, a la Art Blakey. right? So that's a kind of a standard shuffle with the Art Blakey press roll into it, right? We can put that in halftime, kind of like Bernard Purdy would for the Rosanna shuffle. Right? Right? And get it till it feels really good, until it's just pocketed. Nice and soft. Anybody can play loud. But it takes concentration to play soft with feeling. Right? So what I like to do is I like to play around with the different dynamics in my different limbs. Right, you see how I'm still playing all the parts, but I'm just making sure that I almost use my limbs like faders on a mixing board to try and get these levels of each limb to be controlled. And that's really what we're going for, is not just this technical prowess of being able to move across the drums really fast and really loud, but also being able to move across the drums really soft and really intentional and really powerful, and still have facility and be able to have control over each limb's dynamics. That's what I would like to go for. Also, what I would like to impart to you is the importance of being committed to the groove over everything else, right? Like, everybody wants to have great chops, and everybody should have command over chops and know how to place them, but your chops should be pocketed inside of that groove. And the less you can give in to the temptation to just overplay, the better off you will be, for sure. And so that's just something I've learned as I've matured over time. All right. Something like an R&B groove could be in halftime, right? We've been up in this double time feel, right? But let's go to halftime. Right, and then also I would like to add another sound here so that we can even make the R&B thing much more believable. Right, so We can also put that on the snare. I love these sounds, and I think that the closer you can get to the style, the tempo of everything, the more you can really land what it's supposed to be. Really check out Isley Brothers. Check out things like people like on the American side of the like commercial R&B, Chris Brown for some of those like modern R&B trap and hip hop sounds. Beyonce's producers, Rihanna's producers, and these are things that people know. But I mean, like, if you really want to gather the style of American R&B and hip hop, having a pad like this and being able to trigger some snaps and some claps and the right sounds like this will really help get you far in the thing, right? And that brings me to like hip hop. So let's see here. All right, "Killing Me Softly" by the Fugees. Down, 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 down. Slower, so right? Hip hop. What else in the boom bap idiom? Funky drummer, right? So this is something that is near and dear to me, is James Brown's Funky Drummer. So this has been sampled so many times in hip hop that it is in like the fabric of the language. So This Tom is singing so well. So, okay, we covered a bunch of things now. We covered rock, we covered shuffles, we covered a couple different types of rock, we covered a couple different types of shuffles, we covered a little bit of R&B, a little bit of like contemporary hip-hop R&B, some boom bap. Are we done with our boom bap? That's a good question. And bear with me while I talk to myself, because look, when you're in front of not a live audience, when you're not, having a lesson with another human being in the room, it's easy to over talk, and it's easy to overshare, because there isn't that immediate feedback of someone saying, hey, can you go back over that again? Or, hey, can you repeat that for me? It helps the educator sharpen their tools when there is that feedback. So I'm always working on how to make this the most natural and personable while still being on topic, if you know what I mean. So what other things do I want to play for you in the hip hop idiom? That's one of my favorite beats. I absolutely love that. Check out the original version from the Isley Brothers. Check out all these other people who have sampled that. The original beat is Footprints in the Dark. Footsteps in the Dark. Yeah, Footsteps in the Dark. All right, so let's move on. I think that we've spent some time there. I do want to talk about some swing, and I do want to talk about triplets and rudiments. So let me get right into it. I really like this particular groove for demonstrating something that works in the swing era, something that works in the hard bop era, something that works in cool jazz, something that works in a lot of different ways. So right, Duke Ellington. He always had that driving sound on the bell. When somebody like Sam Woodyard or Sonny Greer would play on the bell, or Rufus, Speedy. I mean, look, they would have to drive the band. And playing that on the bell would cut through the immense density of the big band. But if that's not on the bell, it sounds like this. So the components happening here are the ride cymbal, the hi-hat on 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, of course, all the quarter notes on the bass drum played very soft, and I'm feathering it. It's called feathered. Feathered quarter notes, if you will. Not played like this, like it may have been in the 30s, right? Right, but a little bit more subtle. So and then by the 40s, we start dropping the quarter notes on the bass drum altogether and just using accents. So we're trying not to be overbearing with the bass drum, but we do want it to feel full. I guess if I was playing with a bass player and a comping instrument, like a guitarist or a piano player, I would even play less. So, you know, that would sound like this. If I simplified everything I was doing, it would sound like this. Right? So we just want to make sure that we're obeying, not obeying, but that we're being true to the time period that we're playing in. And how we be true to it is by showing the nuances. So the nuances in the 40s, you know, in the 50s being that the bombs dropping on the bass drum, right? Not consistent boom, 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 but boom. Boom, 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 boom. Right? And this all comes from the New Orleans second line groove. So I'm going to start it fast at that tempo and then slow it down. Right, so this is the traditional music of the parade that honors someone who has just passed away, and the people in the second line, the second row of that line, are playing these rhythms. So, you know, all these music styles, they fit with each other because they all come from one origin. And it's really important to honor who makes the music in your country, right? And I know that in Brazil, there is some really complementary rhythms to the shuffle as well. So let's see here. It looks like we're pretty much out of time. I feel like we did go over some things. I do want to go over the single stroke roll, the double stroke roll, and the paradiddle. Single stroke roll is just alternating right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. So something like this. And then the double. Paradiddle. Double. Triple. Flamadiddle. So if we get used to all those, just those rudiments right there, and that's not nearly all of them, but different ways of expressing the double stroke roll, the single stroke roll, and the paradiddle, we can start implementing that into our grooves, into our fills. So just as a general practice, get those in your hands, in your limbs, so that you can have agility and you can have some vocabulary and things to play with in your fills. But what I do want to say about fills is, try not to break away from the motion that your right hand or your left hand is already doing. Rather, just take that same motion and put it elsewhere on the drum set. Take James Brown's Funky Drummer, for example. You see what I'm saying? Because the whole purpose of the fill is to just make a nice transition into the next phrase. And we don't want it to stick out too much, but we also want it to be awesome enough to exist. Otherwise, it shouldn't be there. So just try and take the same motion and put it elsewhere like I did, right? Obviously, you can break away, in other words. Right, that's like a super easy, stupid fill, right? But so just get as fancy as you want to get, but don't leave the pocket. And the best way not to leave the pocket while still creating a fill is to use as much of the same motion that you already got going on somewhere else. All right? I think that's enough today. Peace and love. I'll see you all soon. Next week, Wednesday at 4 p.m., lesson number 3 of trimester 2, 2025. Shout out to NGO Radio Terra for having me. Shout out to Roland Corporation, Proel, Tamburo Drums. Can't do it without y'all. Treat each other good. See you next week.